smiling so big right now because one of my friends is joining me this week on the podcast. Hello, Ricki. How are you?
Hi, I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here and a little bit nervous.
Everybody always says that. And I really want to know why people are nervous to hang out in this room.
It's just because I know we're going to get deep, and it's not that getting deep makes me nervous per se, but you just never know where it's going to go. So it's the unknown part that I think makes people nervous.
That's true. And I do go in some interesting directions. So
I'm ready though.
Speaking of, you guys may know Ricki. She's on 107.5 The River in Nashville. She's our sister pop station in the building, and one of my really good friends. That's why she's on here. Her and I have become really good friends over the last several years.
Yeah.
And we're both little firecrackers together. So this should be interesting.
Teeny tiny firecrackers. Big bang.
Big bang. Big bang. All right, Ricki, let's get the people a little acquainted with you if they don't know you yet. I want you to share some things that have happened in your life that have kind of made you as we start to dive in and get to this connection, because I did have a flirt coach on named Benjamin who is really awesome. And the reason I'm wanting you to join us to talk about connections and stuff, but we got to start kind of at the ground level of who you are.
Okay, yeah. Specifically when it comes to connections, I think a big moment I think back to is when I was growing up, went to a Christian school and then a Catholic school when I was younger. And it was really hard for me in my Christian school when I was younger to make genuine connections with people. Part of that was because my parents were divorced, and being divorced is a no-no in religion. And there was a lot going on with my parents that obviously the school knew about, and it was such a small school that so many people knew about it. And that led to a lot of people judging me. By a lot of people judging me, I mean mostly adults, which was really hard. So I always craved connections with people, and I was always really good at making friends, but not necessarily friends that I had a connection with, because their parents would always kind of pull them away when it felt like we were getting closer, because they didn't want me to be close with their kids for the reasons of like my parents and my family. So I've always wanted to connect with people. And I think when I was younger, I didn't get to do that as much as I wanted to. And that's why I crave it so much now, and why I look for it so much now, I think. That's part of the reason. And then outside of that, when I went to college, I originally studied journalism before I switched to communications. And I studied journalism mostly just because I liked to write. And then I realized while writing articles and pieces for my newspaper that there is such a connection there when you're interviewing people and when you're talking to them about stories and you're talking to them about their perspective on things or what had happened, and get more details from them and you learn about them. It felt so cool to get to know people in that way, in a way that typically doesn't feel very natural, because you're asking somebody so many questions because you're essentially interviewing them for an article. But it always felt comfortable for me. Like I always felt good in those spaces. And in the end, I felt like I got people to really give me more information than I think they planned to.
Yep.
Because they were comfortable with me, because I always want people to feel comfortable, and I want people to feel like they have a space to talk and an open area with me to be themselves and talk about whatever it is that they need to talk about. So I thrived as a journalist when I was younger in college, thrived. And it was the first time.
Well, then you clearly took the wrong path in life, of course.
So I think it was also like the first time that I felt like I was really genuinely good at something. I was like, oh, I'm like good at this, because I was always a great writer and I always loved connecting with people. And it was like the two things put into one. So once I felt like, oh, this is where I thrive, there was no getting me away from that aspect of it. Mm-hmm. In reality, when I went to college, it was like, okay, print media is kind of slowly dying. So I went to the next best thing, which is slowly dying, and that's radio.
Well, you would have been good in any medium for whatever you chose.
Thank you.
I do want to go back to the part one. If you can you recall some of those feelings you had when you felt very disconnected from people? Like when you were in that space, and especially having adults be ones that were disconnecting you. What were some of those feelings you experienced?
Anger. I was so lonely. Like I felt so lonely. it felt like there was no one that understood me or cared to understand me or cared about me outside of my family. And it felt like if adults thought of me that way, then their kids were going to think of me that way. And it felt like adults are not supposed to be that way. They're supposed to be the ones to tell their kids, like, not to think about people in negative lights, not to bully them, not to alienate them, especially in a religious setting like a Christian school. The whole idea of Christianity is to love thy neighbor, to accept everyone, to help those who need it. And that was kind of like an opportunity that they should have taken to help me and to be there for me, and instead didn't. So it just really left me in like a very angry, lonely space. It wasn't even so much sadness. Like, it started as sadness. At one point it was like a lot of sadness, and then it grew into just sheer anger and loneliness. And it took many years after that for me to work through that anger and to be a better person, because I let that anger kind of like sit inside of me and fester and grow and grow and grow and grow until it kind of like took over parts of my life. And I had to do a really hard look in the mirror at one point to say to myself, like, this isn't you. This isn't who you want to be. And just because you've had these experiences doesn't mean that you have to be that way.
So do you feel like when you then went to journalism and communications school, do you feel like that's when that turn started to happen? Because you did choose to connect with people when you could have chose not to, because all of your past experiences told you that was not going to work out. Do you feel like that's when that happened?
I think the weird part is that I never stopped trying to connect with people. I always tried to connect with people. Even in my anger and my darkness and my loneliness, I always tried to connect with somebody on any level that I could. And I found those connections sometimes. Every so often, you know, there was a good connection with someone that I felt understood me, who I felt didn't judge me, and who I could go to. But I never stopped. That was something that I never stopped that. There were points in my life that I held back. I wasn't as open or as myself as I would have liked to be, because I was holding back to shield myself and to protect myself. 100%. Yeah, I had walls up 100%. But I eventually kind of grew out of that, because I think it's just in my nature to want to connect and to talk to everybody and to help people. And I felt like it was always bigger than me and bigger than my own issues. I always felt like my connection with people was for a reason, and that I shouldn't kind of hold that in. I shouldn't squander that. I shouldn't ignore that aspect just because I'd been burned so many times prior.
Yeah, you had some internal conflict happening like the part of you that really wanted to connect and the other that was like, no, we want to run and hide and get away from this.
Oh, girl, internal conflict is my life.
Same.
My life. We've connected on that before. That is my life, is this internal battle constantly of like, you should do this, but also that's not like you, or this is like you, but you need to do this instead in order to make this situation. It's a constant issue that I have to deal with.
You know, and I knew about your experiences with the church schools and that, but I never realized your experiences with the parents and adults doing that to you. One of my bullies in high school was an adult and was part of all of the issues that I dealt with in high school. And the way that she spoke about me or spoke to me or handled me in those situations left a really bad scar for me. Do you feel like you have a scar from some of those adult interactions that is really hard today to still kind of deal with?
I feel like I can't say no, but I also can't say yes. Because one thing that I've realized, like at the time as a kid, I was just like, this doesn't make sense to me. Your whole life, you're taught that adults are supposed to be there for you. They're supposed to protect you. You're supposed to respect them because of those things, because they care about you and want to protect you, and because they're older and they understand things more. They have more wisdom. They've been through more things. And so it was really confusing as a kid. And then as an adult, when I grew up, I realized that they have so many unresolved issues in their life. They are so unhappy with themselves, with their surroundings, with where they are, that seeing a child who's completely innocent is so easy to target. Like, it's so easy to target somebody who honestly doesn't even know you're targeting them sometimes, you know? Like, it took me a long time to really understand that they were targeting me, because I was like, there's no way. That's just, it doesn't work that way. That's not how life works. That's not how I was taught that it works. And it took so long for me to realize, like, oh no, you're bullying me. Like, you're an adult bullying me. But as an adult, I'm like, you were just so unhappy. And if anything, I feel so sad for them. I know who they are. I've seen them later on in life. I've had conversations with them later on in life. And I just feel so bad for them. Your life dwindled down into such a bad space that you needed to pick on me as a child. And that just says so much more about them than it does me, just like it says so much more about your adult bully than it does about you. But at the same time, I can't say that no, it didn't leave a scar, because everything does. Everything that's negatively impacted you in your life is going to leave some sort of residue. Like, I almost don't even want to say scar. I like the idea almost of like a residue, because like you can wash it off, but sometimes like it just leaves like a sticker. When you take a sticker off of your laptop, you could take that sticker off and that sticker is no longer there, but it still has that little bit of residue. But over time, it becomes like less and less residue is left behind. And you don't even like realize it anymore. And you cover it up with other stickers because there's other things in your life that become more relevant at that time. Maybe it's a different band or a different place that you visited that has better memories, and you kind of cover up that residue and it kind of doesn't exist anymore. It's kind of more like that for me than a scar necessarily.
That's a good analogy. I like that one.
Because scars are with you forever. And trust me, there are scars. I got scars. But that one's more of like a sticky residue that's kind of been covered by better things and better experiences and better adults that I've had in my life later on, who I've been like, oh, this is always how it should have been. You know, these are the adults that I wanted to be surrounded with. Just took me time to find them.
The funny thing about mine is that while yours was a massive group of them and more generalizations and making kind of stereotypes about you, mine was a specific one who targeted me. But I also had like a, you know, Wizard of Oz situation where I had Glinda the Good Witch and I had which is the evil one? What's her name? I can't remember her name right now.
Alphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, right?
Wicked Witch of the West.
Yes.
In Wizard of Oz, she's Wicked Witch of the West.
Yes.
I don't think she's Alphaba in that one. I think she's Alphaba and Wicked.
Is it? Yes. Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I had like Wicked Witch of the West, which was my adult bully, but then I also had Glinda the Good Witch, who really helped me and like hid me in her classrooms and took me under her wing and took care of me, which was a really interesting dynamic. So to your point, I had a scar happening while also somebody was actively fixing that scar as it was happening, which is another interesting dynamic. But now that people have an idea of where you come from, a lot of them already know a lot of my story. I want to talk about why now you are this great person who finds connection so important. How do you make sure you are constantly making that important in your life? Like, connecting with people is hard, especially when you have hard days and a lot of life is going on. But you're someone who I admire in the sense that it's always important to you to connect on some level.
It's really hard. It's really, really hard. I can actually say right now, as we're recording this, I'm in a very, I don't want to say negative space. I'm in a down, like I'm down lately. I crave connection, like I said to you, and I love connecting. And a huge part of my job is connecting to people who are listening to me every day. And I love that so much. It's my favorite part of the job, is being able to connect with people and getting to know them and getting to know my community is so fun for me. And with that comes so many people that trust me and trust us on my show. And recently we had a situation last week where, and you know about this, where we had a caller call in, and I'm going to try to tell this story without crying.
If you do, it's okay. The room is cozy for a reason.
Yes, 100%. But I'm going to try to say it without crying so I can be clear. Not because I don't want to cry. I think crying is so good. I actually used to set designated cry times for myself so that I could like let out my emotions, because I used to be so bad at letting out my emotions.
Really proud of you for that.
Thank you. I used to have like legitimate set times. I was like, this is my time to cry. Like everything that's been frustrating, cry. I think crying is amazing. I just want to be very clear about what I'm going to say though. So every morning we have 6:20 is our first caller of the day, where we give away a prize, and it varies in whatever it is that week. And every morning when we do that, we small talk with our listeners. So, you know, what are you doing right now? Oh, you're on your way to work. What do you do for work? So we get to know them. Like, oh, you're on the way to school. How many kids do you have? What are you doing after you drop them off at school? Oh, then you're going to work. It's like, oh, okay. We're getting to know you. You're a mom who's dropping off her kids and working. Like, you must be exhausted. Thank you for listening to us so early in the morning. Things like that, because we want to get to know them. And we had our first caller who we did our same thing that we always do. You know, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Write it down. Talking to her. And all we said was, how's your day going so far? Which is how I open up a lot of them. Is like, how's your day going so far? And she started to cry, and she told us that she thought about unaliving herself the night before. And we weren't obviously expecting someone to open up in that way, especially, you know, first caller of the day, first thing that we're really like doing in the morning. And I don't think that she was planning to tell us that either. I think it was just the simple question of, how is your day going, that changed how she was going to have a conversation with us, which I think is a very important note to keep in mind. Of sometimes all it takes is to ask somebody, you know, how are you doing? How is your day going? How are you feeling today? That little silly question that may seem so dumb is actually such a great communicator and can open something up in a crazy way that you just aren't expecting. And we talked to her on air. We talked to her off air. I've been randomly messaging her to check in on her. But that was a really heavy moment for me, because with connection and with amazing connections and with the positive aspect of connecting with people also comes scenarios like this. And this isn't a negative by any means. I am so happy. I am so happy that she felt comfortable enough that she could tell us that, knowing that she's live on the radio and all of these people are going to hear her, and she didn't care because she felt good talking to us. That is something I will never take for granted. And that is the amazing part of my job, that I get to do that. And that's what I want, those connections. It's just hard being an empath too, to hear those things, because I want to help everybody. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to feel like they belong. I want everybody to feel comfort in being here. And by being here, I mean just like earth.
Yeah.
Because I've had so many times that I didn't have comfort being here on earth. I've had so many times that I didn't want to be here anymore. And I worked through those emotions, and I'm in such a better place now. And I just want everybody else to have that. So it can be really draining. It can be really exhausting in like an amazing way. Because like I said, I'm so lucky that she felt comfortable saying that to us. I don't know if this is actually true, but like we could have saved her life just by talking to her and by asking her how she was doing that day. And by telling her, you know, that we're here and we're willing to help her, like look for the help that she not only like wants, but like deserves and needs.
You guys absolutely helped her. Whether it was in a small or big role, you absolutely did. You know why? Because even you talking, when you told me this happened, the day that it happened, you had posted about it. This is why community is so important. This is why connection is so important. This is why I wanted to talk about connection. And this is so interesting because this is not genuinely the way this episode was not going to go. I had brought on Benjamin, who is known as a flirt coach, but the way that he shifted the conversation of saying, I see flirting as connection with any and everybody in the world, changed my entire perspective on everything in a lot of ways. And in this particular topic, we pass through our days so easily, seeing so many strangers without smiling, without interacting, without recognizing that we are all existing on this planet together. We just go about our days because life can be so hard. And so for you guys to say, how are you doing today, is probably something she hasn't heard in a while, if I had to guess, which you probably would too, knowing we both have the experiences that we do and have been in her shoes before. So somebody saying those words, even to a random stranger, even to the lady at the cashier, even to the person that you see on the street, even to the coworker that you don't normally talk to. Interacting with other humans is so important, and we've gotten so far away from it. And that's why I love hearing you share this story, because not only was your guys' connection to her so important, but it was so important that it did play a role in saving her life. And I don't want you to ever downplay that or question that, because you did.
Yeah, I don't even have words for that because obviously like nobody plans for that. Nobody plans to like help save someone in that aspect. But I'm so happy that she had somebody to talk to. And if that was us or if it was somebody else, whoever, it doesn't matter. But it's so important, like you said, to have those connections and we crave. I say this all the time to my fiance that like we as human beings, our number one thing that we want in life is to feel like we belong. Mm-hmm. It's not love like in a romantic relationship. It's not love in a platonic way. It's not money. It's not a successful career. The number one thing that we just want innate in our bodies, like it's just literally ingrained in us, is to feel like we belong. Mm-hmm. And so many of us don't feel like we belong. And there's an array of reasons for that would take days to get into. But everyone should have the opportunity to feel like they do belong. And everyone should have the opportunity to feel like they have somewhere that they can go to where they feel safe and comfortable and like they're not going to be judged. And we always joke on our show about like, oh, we're going to judge you in a very superficial, silly way, like when we banter with people. But we never, ever judge anybody for anything, you know, even if we don't technically agree with them. We're not judging them for that. We want everyone to feel comfortable. We want everyone to feel good about where they are. Because I just can't imagine ever being a person that doesn't want that, now that I've done so much work on myself and now that I've brought myself out of that anger dark hole that we talked about, that like really just seething, disgusting feeling of anger and hatred for everyone and everything. Ever since I brought myself out of that, I'm like, I can't imagine ever being like that again. Because it's so much harder to be hateful. Mm-hmm. It's so much work to be hateful. Like, oh my God, you are putting so much energy into the hatred. And for what reason? That energy can go into so many other things. You could put that energy into making an amazing meal that night for yourself or for your family. You could put that energy into a new art project that you've been putting off forever, that energy into creating something worthy of something, write a freaking book. You could do anything with that energy because it takes so much out of you to be so just like negative and hateful. But I just don't want that ever.
That's why we're here, to encourage people to start finding connection. That's what we're here in this episode particularly to do. And the way to do that is to find things that you're passionate about and that you care about and show up in those spaces. And this is what Benjamin really encouraged, was when you go out, do something that you love. And when you're in a place that you love or something that you really like to do, talk to at least one person. Like go out and And it doesn't have to be someone of the opposite sex. It can be the same sex. It can be whatever you want. But have a conversation with somebody. Ask them how they are. See how life is. And I know that that's terrifying for a lot of people.
It's so hard.
For you and me as extroverts, we're like, oh yeah, what? You want me to go talk to somebody? Okay, I'll go do it. I can talk to a wall.
So hard, especially as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and
so
to
hard.
talk to other adults. Like it goes back to this whole thing of like, we constantly feel we're being judged and we constantly feel like we're being watched and we're never going to do the right things or say the right things to this person. But the truth is to the bottom of it is that we all do want that connection. And at the end of the day, somebody's probably going to be really happy that you came up to them. And I have this situation that happened. I went out Halloween weekend and I had brought in my purse, instead of bringing anything that I actually needed, I brought a bunch of candy. And I was like, I'm just going to give out candy to a bunch of people and just try and create connection this way. Because, you know, a little behind the scenes here, Benjamin and I recorded that interview a couple weeks ago. And I was like, I'm going to put this kind of concept to the test in the field and connect with people in different ways and just try this. And I'm telling you guys, how he sees and views this is a game changer. Like, I brought out this candy, and one of the funny interactions that I had, not just with like guys or potential people that I thought were cute, but there was a bartender and she was giving me a drink and she's like, "You're Sabrina Carpenter." And I was like, "Yes, I am. Oh my gosh. Do you want a piece of candy?" Like, you got it. You want a piece of candy? That kind of became my shtick for the night.
Right.
And she was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I'd love one." So I gave her one. I was like, "You can have more than one." And I just like gave her a bunch of candy. And we left the bar, and then we ended up going back to that bar like at the end of the night. And she was leaving. It was the end of her shift. And she walked by me again. She goes, "I just want to tell you, you made my entire night coming up to me, not only as Sabrina Carpenter, but also with candy and just your energy and being kind to me. Like, it genuinely changed the course of my evening."
How simple. Mm-hmm. How simple is that? And before you even said that candy story, the one thing that I was just thinking about was like, remember being a kid? And remember how easy it was because you didn't think about anything at all? Like, you never thought about what you were going to say to a stranger or how you were going to make friends. You would say something as small as, "I really like your purse."
Yes.
And then you became friends. Like, it was that easy and that simple. And that's the first thing I thought about. And then you said the candy thing. What an easy and simple way to connect with somebody that you've never talked to before. And in a way that's like, also childlike in a way. You know what I mean? The candy always gives you a thought process of, "Oh, candy."
And everybody likes candy.
Yeah. You're like, "Oh, candy. I'm going to definitely take the piece of candy." Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which, like, I'm not going to lie, this day and age, I probably wouldn't have taken your candy, but the option would have been really sweet.
Yeah.
And
even if you didn't want a candy from a stranger, I understand.
Exactly. But that starts the conversation of like, "Oh, do you want a piece of candy?" And even if I was like, "Oh, I don't know you, I don't think I want your piece of candy," I'd still be like, "But your outfit's really cute. You look like Sabrina Carpenter." And you'd be like, "That's exactly who I am." And it would still start a conversation.
Yep. And I like, honestly though, what's crazy about it is I would have thought the same thing. Like, I didn't really even think, I was like, I'm not a stranger. No, I'm not a stranger to anybody. I wasn't even processing the fact, oh, this is kind of creepy. But when I gave out so much candy that night, Ricki, and not a single person denied it.
Oh.
And listen, some people could be like, pretty privileged, whatever. I don't think that's what it was. Like, genuinely, I was just so happy to be connecting with so many different humans, whether it was about Sabrina or Halloween or the candy or their night. I had so many conversations that evening, and it then snowballed into these other nights that I've been out. I've carried that same energy without candy. And I'm just connecting with people. And I've stopped putting expectations on anything. It's just connecting. It's just meeting another stranger in the world and seeing where life takes you. Like, taking the expectations off of each other and just bringing it back down to what you're saying, this very childlike level of, we're just humans. We're all just trying to be here and get along. We're all in the same space because we all like this place, whether it be a bar or a gym. Or I went to a free workout the other day and I was like the team cheerleader. Every time somebody passed me, I was like, "Let's go." And everybody was looking at me like, "She's kind of crazy." And I was like, "No."
Morgan is very competitive, so that actually totally makes sense. And you're like, "Yeah, let's go." You're like, "We're all going to do so good."
I was though. Like, it genuinely changed this perspective, which is one that like you and I are lucky enough to kind of already have a piece of us. But what for you do you feel like you do when you go out into the world and you're like, how am I going to interact today to make this a little bit better for myself and for others. Do you do anything? Have you had like a mindset shift that's happened?
I would say, honestly, I'm just like open. Being open is so hard. Like it's a really hard thing to be an open person, especially if you have been burned or you have been hurt in the past. Like it's really hard to be open to everything. But I try to be as open as possible to everyone and everything around me. So when I say that, I mean, like when I'm going grocery shopping, like I can walk past somebody and I can say something like, oh my God, I love your shoes. And oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Or if I'm at like Trader Joe's and there's like a product that I haven't tried before and somebody's already picking it up, I'll be like, have you tried that yet? Because I think I'm going to try it. I just don't know yet. And then that starts a conversation. So not necessarily meaning that we're going to be best friends or anything like that. Maybe not even friends in general, but just a connection with someone.
So you've already been doing this. I mean, yeah. I feel like there's a part of me that always was, but now I'm really doing it. But you've been doing it.
Yeah. I don't know that I can't. Like, I don't know if I'm capable of not doing that. I don't know if I'm capable of not talking to everyone and everything, even like a wall. I think there's points where people are like, please stop talking. Like, enough. I don't want to connect with you right now, which is also another flip side of this is like kind of learning what people need and what their connection is. Because not everybody has the same thoughts as you, right? In the sense of connection. Sometimes connection is being able to sit with somebody and not talk at all.
Yeah.
But just being able to be, or just being able to be silent next to that person because that person just wants to be with someone.
In the presence of somebody else.
Yes. So connection doesn't necessarily always mean talking. Mm-hmm. Connection could mean going and sending somebody a gift. Like you're not there, you're not talking to them, but you sent them a gift that you thought of them and you just send that to them. That's a connection. Like there's connecting in so many different ways. It doesn't just need to be a conversation or you walking up to somebody. For those that scares the crap out of them, I totally get it. I don't blame you whatsoever. It's scary. So if that's something that frightens you, you can find connection in so many other ways.
You know, and you reminded me of a conversation I had with someone who's a newer friend of mine, and they're much more introverted. And they were like, how do you just want to be friends with people? How do you be outgoing? How is this? I was like, well, honestly, half of the battle is realizing that nobody actually cares about anything that you're doing. When you take away this idea that you think everybody is judging you and everybody has something to say. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people that have a lot to say and they have a lot of opinions. Oh, yeah. But most of people are not judging you and they're so focused on their own worlds that when you take away this like need to almost make yourself terrified of the repercussions of being outgoing or going to speak to somebody, you take away a lot of that power that comes with rejection. Because rejection is where the terrifying stuff comes in.
It's the rejection part for sure. Mm-hmm. But I can also say, take comfort in the fact that everyone is nervous. Like you're not the only one that's nervous to talk to somebody new. You're not the only one that's nervous that somebody's judging them. Everyone is always worried about that. It's something that you kind of learn to overcome. And also when I say overcome, I don't mean that like judgment means nothing to you anymore and that it doesn't bother you when somebody says something negative about you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you learn to overcome that initial thought of, oh no, I can't do this because someone's going to judge me. Instead, you're like, okay, great, judge me. You also get to a point, I think, in life as an adult that you're so comfortable in who you are. And it takes longer for some, and for others, it's like very natural and very just like right off the bat. But when you're comfortable with who you are and you know who you are, you don't worry so much about people judging you. I don't worry so much about people judging me. That's not something that I think about very often. I used to when I was younger because that's what I always felt like everybody was judging me because that's what I was taught, you know, by those adults that judged me. Like right from the get, I was like, oh wow, people are always judging me. And for things that are outside of my own control, I didn't do any of this. Like I never did anything to deserve this judgment. This is just being brought upon me because of my family. I didn't do this. I'm just a kid. Like I was brought into this. And I just learned later on, I'm like, okay, so what if they judge? cool. Like, judge me if you want to. But I know who I am. I know what I want to bring to this world. I know what I bring to the table. I know my values and my morals and who I am as a person. And if you don't see those things and you see something else, okay, fine.
Yeah, you have this confidence that exudes about you that has really come to understand herself. And that's a beautiful place to be in your life.
It really, I'm lucky that I've gotten here, but I will say it was years of therapy, a lot of looking inward, a lot of sitting down with myself, not even just a therapist, but down with myself and being like, okay, why are you thinking like this? Why do you feel this way? What are your reasonings for XYZ? And really like digging deeper and deeper. I will also say that like, I'm lucky that I've always had family members that have supported me and instilled that confidence in me from a very early age of like, you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that. And I've always heard that my whole life. And I'm so lucky that I had that because not everybody does. I think everyone should, but not everybody does, unfortunately. So I'm going to say right now, you are amazing, you are beautiful, you are talented, you could do anything. And I truly wholeheartedly believe that. Truly. And when you believe that, is when your entire life like changes. And that confidence can wane. You know, like it's not like I wake up every morning and I'm like, hell yeah, confident bitch. Like I don't. Like that would be a lie if I said that. I would love
honestly,
that.
Most of the time I roll out of bed and I'm like, who is that?
Yeah, no, for real.
Who is she?
Yeah, like, oh, girl, you slept on the wrong side of the bed. Like that's okay. You know what I mean? Like,
you know, Dolly Parton was saying something when she's like, roll out of bed, cup of ambition. I need a cup of a whole lot of things to become who I'm supposed to be.
Yes. And at least another hour to actually wake up. So like, I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not always going to wake up feeling that way. And that's totally fine. Like, and I don't always either, but overall, I'm very confident in who I am. Like, I know that I am a caring, loving empath. I know that I'm a badass. I know that I am talented. I know that I can accomplish anything that I put my mind towards because I already have accomplished so many things I put my mind towards. And I know that I'm lucky in that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not blind to that thought process by any means. I just want everyone to take that time to look at themselves to build their confidence.
Yeah,
you
because
know?
everybody deserves to be that confident. Everybody deserves
Everyone
to
should.
have that inner like self-reflection that gets them to a place of, I don't give an actual damn about what you think about me or what you have to say.
Yeah.
Because it's very freeing, but it also still comes like, nobody's perfect. Everybody still has their moments for understanding, but
Also, I have so
overall,
many areas to grow in as a person.
we all do.
But that's also part of the fun, right? Is like knowing that you're always going to be growing. You're always
But
going to be better.
I will say, once you work on that inner like self and that inner confidence, that inner knowing who you are, the rest of it starts to come pretty easy.
You don't even know what's happening sometimes.
No, because you're just, when you have self-confidence and you're just like existing in the world, you are in the present moment, and being in the present moment will change the entire course of what you're doing. Like that present moment where you're no longer focused on the behind, focused on what's ahead. You're just here. You're just existing as exactly who you are in this moment. That right there, that is a superwoman, superman. It is the perfect mesh of the things that we should be doing in this life. What we once, I feel like, really were doing, and we're getting back to. We're finding our way back.
And that's, like I was saying before, you know, it wanes, and that's okay. You know, like everyone's going to have those times where they don't feel that way and they don't feel confident in who they are, and that's okay. I mean, like, it's life. Everything is a roller coaster.
Yes.
You know, one day you're going to be on top and the next day you're going to feel like absolute nothing. And that's okay. The
True.
one thing that I can say in those moments is like, feel all of those feelings. I mean, I've said that to you so many times in scenarios. It's like, feel all those feelings. Like, I want you to feel
Yeah, and I want to punch you when you tell me that. But yeah,
I know. It's
anytime somebody tells me that, I'm like, I know.
It's such a hard thing and it's so cliche. It's so cliche.
But it's not. It's true. It's so true.
Because like you need to feel everything that you are feeling to work through all
one of
those
feelings is me wanting to punch you in the face. But yeah,
that's totally fine, and I accept that fully fully accept that. I actually expect it. And if you didn't want to punch me in the face, I wouldn't be doing my job as your friend.
It's true. All jokes. I swear, I really am never going to punch her or never will.
But like
Really
that's like literally just, you have to work through all of those things to get back to that confident. A confident you that I know who I am. Like you get through all those moments and then you're like, oh no, that's her. There's that bitch. I knew she was in there somewhere. She's back. Like it takes time.
See, so all these things, look at where Ricki has come from. A lot of you know where I have come from to be where I am today. A lot of the questions that I get asked often are like, how are you this happy, confident human being? And it didn't come from nothing. It didn't. It came from so many places, and it's still constantly coming from multiple situations and things that I've experienced. But all that to say, anybody can be this way. You just have to choose that. Ricki and I chose it. It just took a lot of wrong choices to get to this choice.
And there will be plenty of more wrong choices.
Absolutely.
And plenty of more moments that we're going to have to choose to be happy and choose to be somebody who wants to connect with people and confident, all of those things. That's a choice every day.
Yes.
It's not an easy one.
So that's why I'm challenging everyone who's listening right now. I don't care if you're outgoing and you've already figured everything out. I don't care if you haven't figured anything out. I'll have 2 challenges for you today. 1, go talk to any stranger. Just one stranger today. Say hello. Say, how are you? That's all. If nothing comes around, cool. If something does, also great. That's your 1 challenge. Challenge number 2 is to look yourself in the mirror and say, I am a badass and I deserve to be here. That's it. These are the only 2 things you have to say today. And if you start each day with those 2 things for a week, I guarantee you'll start to feel better.
And the second one might be really hard. And even though I am very confident, I hate compliments and I'm very hard at giving them to myself. Trust me. And I know that's kind of like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. You're confident and you don't like compliments. I hate compliments. It always makes you
You're
like,
so pretty. And I'm so proud of you. And you're such a great person.
I love you so much. It makes me so uncomfortable now.
Do you want to punch me in the face now?
No, I actually kind of want to hug you, but I like want to like squeeze you a little tighter. Like, don't do that again.
But like, cute aggression.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So it can be really hard, but you know, you got to try. And like we said, we still have to do it all the time.
Yeah, I wake up every day and talk to myself in the mirror.
I'm constantly talking to myself all day, every day about things like in my head of like little reminders of like, or like working through scenarios in my head of, okay, this is how we're going to handle this. Like, what's the initial reaction? And like think that part through. Then move past the initial reaction, because normally the initial reaction is not how I should handle any situation. And
That's
like
true.
work through those things. So I'm constantly talking to myself, and there's plenty of times where I'm like, Ricki, the hell was that? Like, why did you do that?
If you're not doing that to yourself twice a day, then you're really not living. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I have so many moments where I'm like, why are you like this? Like, what is wrong with you? But that's okay.
That's like the cuteness aggression part. I'll do cuteness aggression with my dog and my cat. And I'm like, Morgan, why? Just gentle.
Why are you like this?
Why are you the way you are?
But that's part of it, you know, is like, why are you the way you are? Why are you like this?
The age-old question that nobody will ever answer.
Right. And then being like, I don't know, but I want to be like this, and working towards that.
This is true. This is how you figure it out.
Or just accepting that you are the way that you are too. Because there are definitely certain parts of me I'm like, this is just the way it's going to be. I don't know what to tell you. Unfortunately, this is where we're at.
Oh, Ricki, we could talk all day, and you'll have to come on for another episode at some point. But for now, I'm going to release you from this vulnerable position.
You are released.
Thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me and opening up about your life and talking about connections.
Thank you for having me. And this couch is very comfy.
That is a chair. That is not a couch.
It feels like a couch for me because my whole body can fit.
Why do you think I bought them? Because I can sit crisscross and it makes me feel happy.
I could sit here for the next 4 hours.
Well, we could do that. That would be another radio show.
I'll be back. Don't worry.